Alrighty. right, let's add some shadows. It's funny, I tried to add music to the stream, but couldn't figure it out. Instead, you've just got me sitting here in silence. If you don't mind, I don't mind. Oops. Forgot part of his fur on his leg. Zoom out, see what this looks like. Thinking probably have the light coming from over here. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I could probably have the light hit him from that side. So we're going to finish the tail and the rest of his fur. Let's do the tail first. Still figuring out how to do the shadow on the acorn, so I'm avoiding it. He's got his two ears that are going to cast some shadows too, but also his head. Okay, let's work on this acorn here. The lower lip of it will catch a little bit of shadow. I think that'll arc around. And then his paw over here casts a shadow. Ever so slightly. And the acorn itself causes shadow. His arm casts a shadow. Acorn casts a shadow down here. Something like that. I'm going to rotate the canvas. Look at the shadow lines for the fur. Rotate the canvas back. I guess come here like that. Looks good enough to me. Okay. So now I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to label this BG for background. So I'm going to do the whole background in, and all the layers and everything I do will be in there. Because every single part of this is on a new layer, so all of the beauty of digital art is everything's on a separate layer. So all the lines are on one layer. Woo! But then every element of Lucky is on a different layer, as well as the different parts for the acorn. So got a new folder for background. And now let's use some special brushes. We're going to attempt to paint some tree bark here. See how well that goes. Sometimes I'm doing this multiple times before I get anything done right the way I like it. The thing I have to be careful for the cover is, because this is going to be for a book, I have to be careful of these edges. I can't have anything too important being around the edges. So for a book, they always end up, whenever they're at the printer and it's printing the books, there's always a little bit of degree of, I guess you could say, error whenever they're cutting the pages. So these edges here, which I'm fading in and out, making brighter and faded, that's my safe zone. Anything that appears in this white area here, that's definitely going to be on the cover no matter what. Anything that's kind of in this yellowish, orangish area, if there's a potential that when the books get printed, that the cover could get chopped a little bit on the edge. So I just have to make sure I don't have anything important out there. And then that kind of aqua greenish bluish color on the very end, that is something that most likely will never appear on the cover. Then whenever the printer goes to print it, that's kind of where the page gets cut. Occasionally, though, there's a little bit of error in machinery when it's cutting, so that's why I have to account for a little bit of a degree of like a machine error. Okay, so hide that for now. We're going to go into this tree bark. I've got a special watercolor brush here, which I like. See if I can get a color I like here. I like that, but maybe a little darker. I like that too. Might be a little too dark. No, well, I'll work with that and see how it goes. And here goes nothing. My first pass here, I'm basically just trying to get a wash across everything. Because this is digital, imitating how something would work in traditional paint. So normally you'd wash the entire canvas. Because it's digital, I can wash individual parts of the painting, the picture, individually instead of having to wash the entire canvas with paint. And then the benefit of digital is I don't have to wait for it to dry. I can tell it to be dry immediately, or I can wait for, or I can go back and pretend it's still wet, which is not something you could do if it was traditional. I'm liking this color better. Now you'll notice the more it goes with this brush, I've just been brushing over on, or just been painting on one layer. You'll notice the more it goes, the more it gets washed out, and I lose that nice little texture. And that is the way that this brush was designed, so that you can kind of imitate different elements of watercolor. Because when you first start with watercolor, sometimes if it's still wet, it'll still interact with itself. So you can paint some water, and then you move your brush around and it makes it all, smooths it out, makes it swim around like watercolor. And then if I let go, move my pen off the tablet, and then I go back again, it starts all over again. And so if I keep the brush on the tablet, I can go a little lighter and I can kind of make some edges smoother, but maybe I want to keep a couple of the edges more solid, like it would happen in watercolor if it had dried. And then I can kind of imitate the effect of as if it had been done in traditional watercolor. So that's kind of what I'm doing over here on this tree here. And as I'm painting the rest of it, there's certain parts I'm wanting the effect of it looking like it had dried in certain parts and not in others. So like right here, I'm going to undo that. I don't like that really long solid line there. So try that again, and I'm going to go, I like the line, but I don't want all of it. So I'm going to get rid of some of that line. Nope, don't like that. I'm going to try again. Because it was not the best. Try this again. Solid, and there we go. I like that better. Now I'm going to add one more layer. The benefit of that is now, as you interact with it more and more and do more and more times, and as it gets more muddy, if I create a new layer, now I can start all on top of all that, and it won't muddy. It won't get. It won't interact with the other colors in the same way. So I've kind of done what I could on this one layer with the brown, and I'm going to do one more pass on top of it. And since the style I've chosen for this, I don't really do shadows with background elements. Really, the only thing that gets shadows are the characters. So in this case, it would be Lucky, the squirrel. And then he'll cast a shadow. But other than that, I don't do any shadows in this comic. Excuse me. So one thing I will do is I will darken some elements where the shadow would be, and that will just help make it look a little more three-dimensional. I'm going to zoom in here a little and get this one branch. And I'm not worrying about coloring outside the lines because I'm going to go back through and pick and choose the places where I want it to go over the lines. Excuse me. Get a little darker on the underside. This one's going to be covered in shadow. Alrighty, I'm going to make a new layer. Doesn't matter if it's on top or on below. Use this green color from my palette, and I'm going to hide my palette real quick because I'm going to color these leaves up here, or at least attempt to. You never know. So now I'm switching brushes. The brush I had before was this one, which is kind of squarish. It's as if you had a flat square brush that you're painting with. So I've switched it now to a round one to the right size. Use this for the tree leaves, and just like before, starting with the wash, just washing the base colors. Thanks, AJ. I just saw your comment. There's a little bit of a delay on the stream, so feel free to comment or ask any questions if you want. And I'll answer when I see them, if I pay enough attention. Okay, got my base wash. I'm going to do it a second time. I want it a little darker. And when I do the wash, I usually don't want any sharp edges. I usually want it to be fairly light. However, for the tree, later on, I will be wanting a lot of those sharper edges that you get from watercolor, because that'll add to the illusion of there being tree leaves and such. I'm going to go slightly darker in my color, and we'll really start painting this. I was saying earlier, telling them earlier, I tried to add music to the stream, couldn't figure it out. Eventually said, "Oh, whatever. I gotta get to work. I gotta start painting." So no music. Instead, you just get me working in silence. It's just like picture of what it's like every day for me. Okay, so now I'm going to merge. See, I've got these multiple layers on the side. I'm going to merge them all down to their respective. All of the tree bark's on one layer now. And all of the leaves are on one layer. And now I'm going to go in, I'm going to take the selection tool, and I'm going to choose where I want those colors going over the lines. The key for the style that I've chosen for this book is that I want some mistakes. I don't want it to look perfect. So a lot of what I am doing is trying to imitate the imperfections that you get when you do traditional art and traditional paint. And that's just purely aesthetic. What I was going for, what I wanted to try and do for this comic. So just leaving some of those colors to go out side of the lines, and then right after I do the leaves, I'll do the same with the tree bark. I tend to like complex covers. I tend to like covers that have a lot going on or really cool perspective or things like that. And I tried drawing some more complicated covers, but they just didn't look right. And a lot of that has to do with, this story is fairly simple. It's not that complicated. So it just didn't really look right to have some complicated, cool perspective shot on the cover, which, yes, the cover might be more engaging, might look more interesting, but having something that doesn't really match the rest of the comic didn't really seemed off-brand, quote unquote. And this one I'm gonna have to get rid of all that. So I settled to something simple. Hopefully everyone else likes it. A lot of times, I think sometimes me liking complex covers that look really cool and stuff like that, well, that's more my personal taste. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best thing for the project. It doesn't mean it's the best thing for this comic. I had a very interesting day where I live. I woke up at 2 a.m. to the sound of a huge thunderclap, and right outside it was pouring rain. It was just flooding down. Oh, look, I forgot some leaves. And Vittles and all the other cats were all in our bed with their eyes all wide open, going, "What is going on?" My wife got up and gave them some treats, and they were all freaking out. And they were running from window to window, looking at everything as the rain is just pouring down outside. It was really cute. And when I woke up in the morning, like the street, it was still raining when I first woke up, and the rain was just pouring still. You could see it looked like our street had kind of turned into a river. And fortunately, I didn't have to go anywhere today, so I was able to stay at home and just enjoy the rainy day. Although my wife had to go in today. She works at the church we go to. And she tried to leave our town, and both of the roads she tried to leave in were flooded, so she couldn't get out. She had to go all the way out the other end of the town, up to the interstate and around to get out. Okay, I think we're about done. I'm going to. One thing that's nice is you can paint with anything in this program. But you can also unpaint anything. So I can use that exact same tool in reverse. So I'm going to do that down here, where this brown went a little too far for my liking. And with this brush, it blends any of the color. So you'll notice as I erase some, it drags some of the color out. Then I'll go back through one more time. I'll take an airbrush tool in reverse, and I'll just make sure any of the brown way out here is cleared up. That way you still get some of the paint that went over the line, but not too much. And then one last thing, make a new layer, and we'll fix these little leaves down here that I forgot. I mean, left for later. I didn't forget them. And we'll condense that down. Make sure it's all on the same layer. Good. Okay, now we've got the sky in the far background. A big brush for this. Start with my wash again. Just a light ink wash here. A little lighter around him for the first pass. Later we'll go in and make it darker. Okay, first pass is done. Make it darker up here as well. It's not technically darker there, but as the light comes in from the side of the tree, it's brighter. And so it'll look darker underneath the tree. At first glance, if you were to look up in a tree, you look right underneath the branches, the sky behind will look slightly darker at first. And then your eyes kind of adjust and it won't look as dark. But so that's kind of what I'm going for with that. Starting a new layer, and then I'm going to add a little more now. Get all over. Just like before, I'll have to go through and edit some of the edges for this, but one thing I do like is I do like how a little bit of the color is seen along the edge of the tree branch. Makes it look a little bit like it's some reflected lighting. And then I'm going to cheat. I'm going to copy this layer on top. I'll add a little more darkness on top. I'm going to combine the two layers together. And then I'm going to add on top. One thing I need to do is I need to check my values. I'm going to add a new layer. I'm going to do something very scary, and I'm going to fill it all with black. Then, they have a very handy thing over here. You can change the blending mode of the layer to color mode, and it converts my picture into black and white. So this is really helpful for checking the values of my picture. I can see if it reads well. If something reads well in black and white, then you can pretty much color it in any color you want, and it'll still read well. So what I have done, you'll notice the values of the leaves and the tree trunk branches, they're pretty close to the same values. So ideally that would be a little different, probably if I made the leaves a little darker. And they are a little close to him. We'll see what happens when I add the cast shadow from him, but looks okay. It's good starting place. I'm gonna see if I can cheat here. And I've got a fancy little thing that lets me change colors and how dark something is. So if I wanted the tree leaves to, it's fall or something, I could do that if I wanted, but I am just going to darken it a little. Whoop, too much. Just try about -20. And go back and check the values. That does look a little better. Now, one thing I have to keep in mind too is I have to have room for the logo. So I copied it over. And the difficulty with the logo is I have to make sure that it fits within the cover. So any of the lettering from the logo has to be in this center area where it's not going to get cut whenever the book is trimmed. And as I look at it now, I think I want to lower it slightly. Oh man, AJ, you had to drive in that rain. Ooh, it was pretty crazy. It was nuts. I did think about you. I actually was thinking about texting you, but I figured, knowing you probably had made it to work anyways. AJ works even he lives even further out than I do, and he's got about a 30-minute drive, 40-minute drive to work. Okay, I'm gonna do one more layer for this sky, and I really do need to darken this sky because I want to add some light coming in from the right side over here, and you really can't add light unless, here, I'm going to add light coming in this direction. You really can't add light and make something look like it's bright unless everything else is darker. So I can tell that I'm going to need this sky to be darker. I'm going to add a little more to it. And I've got a slightly different brush here, which is made to imitate as if you have a little bit of salt into your watercolor. So one thing you can do when you traditionally paint with watercolor is you can sprinkle salt on it right after you have the wet paint, and the salt will suck up some of the paint and it'll leave these little speckles. So this brush I have imitates that. Nothing major, just a little bit. Excuse me. And then I'm gonna add a little more up here because that bright spot is bugging me. Just darken this area. Blend it in. Get rid of the excess. There's a good chance some of that will be trimmed, especially as it gets really close to the edge there, but still just trying to make it flow and read well all the way across the board. But kind of make a new layer. It's a little darker. Okay, now I'm going to combine some of these layers in the back. I'm not sure if I like that though. Now it's where it gets to a little noodling. Yeah, that's what I thought. Now it gets to a little noodling. Thinking if there's certain areas I think would look a little better one way or another. And seeing if there's any of the sky that I think has gone too far. I do like how it's blending with that tree. I think I might leave that. Maybe this is a little too much down here. Especially because that's right where his shadow is going to go. And then I'm going to erase, quote unquote, a little bit here. Just kind of lessen how bright it is, how saturated it is on this tree. Okay, now's where the magic happens. We're going to create a new layer with some lighting. Most of the lighting in the book has been this bright yellow color, so we're going to stick with that. And we're going to go below the logo, below the line art. And we're going to get a big old gradient. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and add the shadow that's cast by our little squirrel buddy here. Make it look like he's more in the environment. Probably come to about here. Something like that, probably. And then we'll just get rid of the bit that's in the sky. Nothing super crazy. Actually, fairly simple. And we'll just carve it out in the shape of a tail. The shadow's not exactly right, but that's okay. The goal is to have the illusion that that's where he is. Oop, Press the wrong button. And that helps make the character fit into the world that he's in right now. Okay, so now we're going to do some lighting. Do a soft gradient. We'll see how that looks. Maybe it'll look terrible. Maybe it'll look good. We'll find out. Start from over here. Brighten it up a little bit. A little too much? No? That's maybe a little too much. But we'll just lessen it some. And I zoom out so I can see how it looks. If something looks good when it's smaller, as a small little thumbnail, then it'll look good when it's full size and larger. I think I'm going to change that to an overlay layer, which basically means it's the color. It affects everything except for white and dark. So if something's white, it won't show up. Like over here, you're not going to get very much. If something's black, like on these lines, it's not going to show up. So the lighter something is and the darker something is, it won't apply. There's a glow layer, which is what I'm going to do next. Makes things glow, and it doesn't matter color or how dark it is something is. I'm going to take my same watercolor brush I've been using. Going to get some streams of light in here. Kind of look like it's coming in from some leaves up above, through the leaves. This is kind of one of the more fun parts of painting. It's just the visual effects. Add a little bit to the logo. Add a little texture to it. It makes it look like it fits more in with it makes it feel like the logo is actually part of the picture as opposed to just being flat on top of it. Do anything to tie the logo in with the art around it. It helps it fit better. And I'm just switching back and forth between an airbrush and the painting brush I've been using. Okay, and then I'm going to add one more layer. It's another glow layer. I'm going to use a soft airbrush. And I'm going to see if I can make it look a little brighter over here. Kind of like there's a glare on the camera as the light's hitting it. Oh, one of my cats has decided to say hello. This is Chai Chai. Do you know you're on stream? Sorry, I can't hold you for too long. All right, what was I doing? So now would be a good time for me to check the values, change it to black and white, see how it looks color-wise. And I'm going to zoom out. How does it look very small? What I do like about this is I can read the logo, even though I've added some stuff to it. And even when it's this small, I can read that logo. So that's good, because that means if it's a thumbnail online, you can view it easily. If it's on a bookshelf somewhere from far away and it's actually facing out, you could still read that. I don't think it's the best logo I've ever done, but I think it works. I guess that's the important thing. Then I'm going to add a little bit more color of the light. If the light is hitting Lucky, then he should be glowing a little bit more. So, and you know what? I'm going to add, because this is the cover, try adding a little more texture to him. And I do the light as it hits him. And then just soft little airbrush. And I've got the acorn on a separate layer, so I've got to do the acorn as well. And then this might be overkill, but I'll do a little bit. Yep, that's overkill. We won't do that. Now, I'm going to experiment here. I don't know if this will look better or worse. We'll find out. But I wonder if I got rid of the glow on his eyes. Does that look better? Definitely make it look a little more cartoony feel, but the question is, do I think it'll actually look better? I think it does look a little better. Makes his eyes pop more. And I did the cardinal sin. I forgot to draw his teeth. So I am going to cheat. I'm going to go in here digitally and draw his little kind of buck teeth. His little chompers. I learned, apparently, squirrel teeth never stop growing. I did not know that before I made this comic. And that squirrel's teeth grow their entire lives. Which I guess would probably make sense why they chew on tree bark and siding of houses and all kinds of stuff. All right, I'm going to save this. I think we're just about done. I guess I could try and add a little something in the background. I'm going to add a new layer above this. Maybe we'll try. We'll see if it'll look better or not. I'm trying to picture it in my head. Not sure this will work, but we'll see if it looks any better or not. I might be making it too complicated. But maybe there's some kind of house back here, and that's a house. Kind of off in the distance and not really in focus. Maybe there's something back there. I think it will get too complicated. I'm going to pitch that idea. And instead, I'm just going to add a little more depth to the tree trunk in an attempt to push these values a little bit more. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, but it better be close. Better be close to perfect. Just kidding. Okay, I like that a lot better. A few particles. Most of this won't be that visible. But if I decide to print this as a poster or something, it'll show up a lot better. Like there's these little particles of dust and things that are floating around. They're getting caught in the rays of light. Just adjusting. Get it how I want it. Just fine tuning. I think I'm almost done here. The trick is every adjustment, because you can continue to adjust art forever and ever and ever and keep going and never stop. And the trick is when you start making adjustments and you switch back and forth and you can't decide which one you like better, you're getting close to being done. Because that's when you're merely making subjective choices. You're not actually making choices that are actually improving the artwork. Like that one. I don't need that. It doesn't actually make it. Well, yeah. Pitch that idea as well. I think it's as good as it's going to get for now. I'll save it and I'll probably look at it tomorrow. I'll see if there's anything that I see that's different. I guess I should add my name to the cover. That would make sense. Make a really tiny font and we'll hide it in the corner where no one will see it. No, I'm kidding. Originally, the plan had been to put it here. However, that won't fit anymore. I could put it here and say bye. Put it below. I'm going to do something like that for now, and then I will adjust it later if I need to. And I'll just do a quick little highlight to make it stand out more. All right. I think that's it. I think we'll call it good. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of your night.